Story 1. My boyfriend said the main thing he noticed is how soft I am compared to him. He was baffled, and I didn't know there was such a big difference either. Story 2. Skincare. I was a put some water on my face in the morning kind of guy. Now she has me using sunscreen, moisturizer, hair masks, and cleanser. I am radiant. Story 3. My boyfriend didn't know how tampons worked. I filled a glass with water and explained to him how to use the applicator. When it dropped into the water and expanded, his jaw dropped. Story 4. How much girls value little gestures and the intent behind doing them. For example, my girlfriend would be sleeping, and I would get up to fix the curtains to make sure no sunlight gets to her face, bringing her a little sweet treat after I come back from work. These little gestures make her day. But one thing that I am realizing only now is how important the intent behind doing that is as well. Did I do it because I had to? Or did I do it because I truly love and adore my wonderful girlfriend? It makes a world of difference for her. Story 5. I found out that most of the time there is already a plan for what we will do. I just don't know it yet. Story 6. When I was 16, my high school girlfriend, now my wife, and I were having intercourse while she was on her period. We had started dating 3 months prior and had just become sexually active, so her period was not going to stop us. As we began to have intercourse, something felt off. I looked at her strangely, and she said, "Oh no, I forgot to take my tampon out. It's way up there." She couldn't get it out and started panicking, worrying about how embarrassing it would be to go to the hospital to have it removed. So, she told me to try to get it out. As I was reaching deep inside, she began telling me about toxic shock syndrome. I was really struggling to find it and was also panicking after learning about that. Finally, I managed to grab the string and pull it out. My hand was covered in menstrual blood. I have a very mild blood phobia, so I was on the verge of passing out. She began laughing with tears of panic in her eyes. When I finally composed myself, I started laughing at the absurdity of the situation as we cleaned ourselves up. Anyway, I learned about toxic shock syndrome and a lot about female anatomy that day. Story 7. That I should still love them and stay with them forever, even if they get turned into a slug, worm, or some other kind of creature. Before we dive into the next story, a big thank you for lending me your ears. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just a click away. Story 8. I found out that there is a difference between pantyhose, tights, and stockings. I had no idea that there was a difference. I thought there were 3 different names for the same thing. Story 9. When I was a bachelor, I had an empty trash can in the bathroom for 3 years. After getting married, I emptied that trash can almost weekly. I never realized how many tiny swabs, wrappers, and other items needed to be disposed of in the bathroom. Story 10. If they have long hair, they leave hairpins everywhere. I was still finding them 2 years after the breakup. I just found one stuck to the bottom of my laptop. There hasn't been a woman living here in 6 years. Story 11. This haunted me ever since, but they seriously don't have pockets in most of their clothes. The purse obsession is valid. Also, the buttons on their shirts are usually placed in the opposite direction. Story 12. My first-time dad friend came knocking at 1 a.m. He said his daughter, who is 1 year old, won't stop crying after he gave her a bath. It turns out he used laundry soap on her, including her private areas, because they ran out of bath gel for babies. Yes, boys, that area is very sensitive. Please do not use soap on that place unless you are using a feminine wash. The poor baby got rashes. Story 13. That there is a huge difference in levels of fear. I had been oblivious to it, but as a well-built tall man, I am almost never actually afraid, even when I perhaps should be. I will get drunk and walk home from the pub alone after closing time through bad areas and not even think about it. Saving the taxi fare for a kebab seems a good choice to me. I do not worry about getting robbed. Even if it happened, after a night out my wallet is basically empty. I am a bit more wary now about my phone, but that is still ultimately just a thing that, if someone is desperate enough to want, so be it. But I am also never at risk of being sexually assaulted or kidnapped or anything similar really. I mean, I guess I technically am, but as a big man, I am most likely not anywhere near a reasonable risk trade-off. Just loading me into a van would take some effort, even if I was not resisting at all. So it was not until I knew someone female well enough to have conversations about women being routinely afraid of men that I had any idea that I was intimidating. Because in my mental self-image, I am really not. I have never thrown a punch in anger. I have never needed to. The only time I have been in a real fight, I still did not hurt anyone. I just got bottled and they ran away. So that is the big difference for me. The world that I perceive is ultimately one where I feel safe and confident, and the world that many women perceive is one that is filled with threats and risks. I would not call myself brave, though. I am not really. I am just ignorant of the risks and have not spent my whole life potentially at risk of someone physically stronger than me. Story 14. When they wear the towel on their head after the shower, their hair is all twisted and sticking straight up on the top of their head. I discovered this when I tried to joke around and grab the towel by twisting it off my girlfriend's head and sent her flying. I felt so bad. And yes, I was foolish. Before we dive into the next story, a big thank you for lending me your ears. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just a click away. Story 15. The whole toilet seat thing is about them falling into the toilet, a possibility I never considered and is a totally understandable reason. Story 16. As a woman who has dated women, I didn't expect there to be any major revelation, but I was wrong. Simple things like taking off a bra from another person are not the same as taking it off yourself, and I initially struggled with it. So much so that my first girlfriend asked me how I managed to take my own off. I did eventually master it, but it is trickier than you would think when doing it the opposite way. Story 17. I learned about the constant level of danger they are exposed to and the corresponding vigilance they have to exercise. Story 18. Women are harassed far more often by men than is commonly observed because men do not tend to engage in such behavior around other men. Most women who run outside have experienced being hunked at or shouted at. It is always important to listen to the perspectives of others. You can learn a lot. Story 19. Some are as eager as guys, sometimes even more. Morning arousal exists for some girls as well. Some wake up feeling very eager and ready. Story 20. It sounds silly, but I learned that endometriosis is no joke. My ex would sit in the shower and cry, and I wouldn't know what to do. Story 21. Their existence is pain. Menstrual cycles, large breasts hurting their backs, ear piercings, clothes that hurt to wear, feet getting tired from heels, mammograms, intrauterine device insertion, doctors not listening to women's pain symptoms. It's like society doesn't prioritize women's pain. For people below that don't get it, I'm not writing about pain that only women experience. Pain is a culmination of experiences together. Of course, men get piercings too. Of course, women don't have to wear painful clothing or heels. Of course they do. But more than 80% of women get piercings and only 10 to 15% of men do. People, this isn't a game between who hurts more, men or women. It's that women have to deal with a lot of pain in their day-to-day lives. If you start with your whataboutisms, you're not getting it and, in fact, you're part of the problem. This post did not launch any attacks toward men and has nothing to say about men. You're coming in here to make this about yourselves when it shouldn't be. Have some sympathy for how much pain women have to go through in their day-to-day lives. And maybe I might have some sympathy for you too. Before we dive into the next story, a big thank you for lending me your ears. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just a click away. Story 22. My dad told me this story about his parents. A few months after they got married, my grandma was on her period and she was always in a lot of pain during the first days. My grandpa grew really concerned and said he was taking her to a doctor because she was having these pains every month, so there must be something really wrong. My grandma started laughing and said it was just her period. Nothing was wrong. Then she had to explain what a period is because, even though my grandpa had 10 sisters, he had no idea. Story 23. Ovulation cycle things. Things you have to do differently during different phases and how wild she can become just before the menstruation begins. The first few days watching her endure the pain like a champion really made me respect you ladies so much more. Story 24. That some are actually attracted to men or me. I grew up with a gay sister and a mother who only complained about men due to the divorce from my father. So I just grew up thinking women really didn't find men attractive but put up with us in a romantic fashion for some reason. When a girl said, "Shut up and just look pretty," my first thought was, "You think I'm pretty?" I probably had a goofy smile on my face. Story 25. If they have long hair, it goes everywhere. You will find it in your clothes, your mouth, and other places. Story 26. That it is cold everywhere. I went through life thinking it was pretty comfortable in most places. Apparently, it is wrong. The house is freezing, it is cold in the car. Airplanes are all freezing inside. Also, there are hundreds of products everywhere. So many lotions. So many hair products and makeup items. Story 27. When women say it's fine, this is not, under any circumstances, an indication that things are fine. Story 28. Before I got a girlfriend, I thought the only kinds of discharge were honorable and dishonorable. Boy, was I wrong. Before we dive into the next story, a big thank you for lending me your ears. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just a click away. Story 29. The unpredictable start of menstruation. I almost always carry a small backpack when I am out, so I started keeping a set of tampons in the bag just in case someone needed any. They did not need any, but I had a friend who needed some once, and she was a bit surprised when I gave her some from my backpack. They stop nosebleeds well, too. Story 30. That periods are not just a thing that individuals have, but that they can have a really negative impact on their comfort. Not that I was ever dismissive about it, but after a while you learn how uncomfortable periods can be and how we are fortunate to not have them. Story 31. Finding out that when she took my hand while walking made my heart happier than it had ever been. Story 32. My boyfriend thought I was the only girl who wore hipster panties. He thought girls only wore thongs. Story 33. I was trying to be helpful and do laundry. I learned very quickly and the hard way that her bras do not go into the dryer. I took her to Victoria's Secret that day and also learned just how expensive bras are too. Story 34. How she has to unhinge her jaw to eat her prey whole. Second set of teeth in her throat. Her tail has a venomous spike on it. Stares at me for protection when she defecates. Melts when water gets on her. Can camouflage in most environments. Expects me to be a mind reader. If she says it's fine, it's really not. Story 35. When they want to be intimate with you and they are feeling attracted, it is difficult to resist. They will draw out your desires. Before we dive into the next story, a big thank you for lending me your ears. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just a click away. Story 36. Nesting, they slowly build little microenvironments in your home the more comfortable they get. First, it was just a toothbrush. A harmless, unassuming toothbrush standing upright in its unfamiliar new holder, as if testing the air. Then came the moisturizer, the scented candles, and the inexplicable yet deeply unsettling increase in the number of throw pillows. By the time he noticed his favorite chair had been quietly repurposed into a reading nook, a term he had never encountered before but now feared, he realized, with the slow dawning horror of a man watching the tide come in while tied to a deck chair, that he no longer lived alone. Story 37. That there were different kinds of napkins baffled me. There are ones with wings, without wings, for heavy flow, for night, and regular ones. It was crazy. I didn't even know what with wings or without wings meant until she actually showed me. I remember the first time my ex asked me to buy her napkins. I thought it was a one-type thing and I only had to choose between brands. But when I asked the lady for napkins and she showed me a whole wall of them, there were so many different types. I just froze. She laughed and helped me sort it out, and I ended up getting one of each. Thank you to that one lady who helped me. It would have been the most stressful moment of my life. Story 38. That street harassment is just a normal daily occurrence that they have to put up with. I thought it was very rare until I had a woman in my life. Story 39. How many women have faced sexual assault? I was significantly overweight for a long time, so I didn't date much between the ages of 22 and 27. However, I got in shape and started dating more frequently. Every woman I was with eventually opened up about how they had been assaulted, and I was astonished. It is both disturbing and deeply saddening. Story 40. They can be gross, like outright disgusting. Anyone who thinks men are dirtier than women hasn't been in many women's dorm rooms or apartments. Story 41. Women face more obstacles than men in their day-to-day lives. It is a miracle they exist at all given all the hardships they endure. Story 42. Although nominally mammals, under certain temperature conditions, they can violate the laws of thermodynamics. Before we dive into the next story, a big thank you for lending me your ears. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just a click away. Story 43. That one woman is not a stand-in for all women, and you cannot make sweeping generalizations about how women are or what women want by knowing one woman intimately. Story 44. How expensive their underwear is. That six-pack of Hanes at Walmart for under $30 is a gift. Boys, do not take it for granted. Story 45. Having relationships in my late teens and early 20s definitely made me a feminist. Feminism is about equality, and any man who is afraid of that is not very courageous, in my opinion. Story 46. How many issues do women have to deal with that do not even exist for men, such as safety when alone, men leering, and sexism still present in our institutions? Story 47. They never finish the shampoo or conditioner before they buy new shampoo or conditioner, so eventually there are 10 bottles that are all 1/4 to 1/2 full. And there are lotions and moisturizers as well. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.